My name is Marcela Brugnach. I am an Ikerbasque research professor. I work at BC3, and my research topic is collective decision making under uncertainties. And today what I'm going to talk is about concepts of how we make collective decision making regarding to common pool resources under uncertainties and in the context of climate change. Hello everybody, thank you for coming here Friday afternoon. I mean, this is something. So I really appreciate it that you are going to listen on Friday instead of being out. You're going to be listening about water resources and water management and water governance. So I would like, first of all, well, my name is Marcela and I come from Argentina. And I studied there computer sciences, and then I moved around quite a lot. I studied in the US, and then I passed through Germany, through the Netherlands, and now I live here in Bilbao. And I work, and I have worked all my professional career on how people make decisions collectively. And this is what I would like to share, a little bit of that, a taste of that I would like to share today. And what we call is collective decision making, and what we mean by that, and this is the objectives of our talk today, was to explore the complexities of the decision process, of the collective decision making processes regarding common pool resources. In this case, I work with water common pool resources, under uncertainty, and in the context of climate change. So there is a lot of jargon here, and there are a lot of words that perhaps are not common in your current vocabulary. So I would like to dig a little bit on that. First, if I said procesos de decisión colectivos, collective decision-making processes, what do you understand? Nothing at all? It has collective. What does collective mean?
It's more than one person, a group. Yes, a group of people.
Voila, exactly. And decision making?
Comes a decision.
With more than one person. So collective decision making would be to study processes in which we have to gather together, a group of people has to gather to make decisions together. And when I said climate change, what do you have in mind?
No, temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Pollution.
Pollution, yes. Someone else? Well, I guess climate change is a topic that now it's becoming very, very important, because we as humans have, with our actions and our doings, have changed the way in which climatic processes behave, and also this how we feel that through the weather. It will rain more, it will rain less, there will be more variability, less variability, depending on where you live in the globe. Climate change is also associated not only with changes in climate, but then also with a lot of social changes, changes in ecosystems. It's when we talk about climate change, actually what we have in mind is socio-environmental changes of many sorts. Very, very complex processes that we have to face today. And here, my work is, in general, has been surrounded water. When I think in water, I think the water, I work with water in a river, for example, how we manage together, how we make decisions together regarding how to use the water in a river. This water could be surface water, could be underground water. It could also be water in a city, how we manage in the city to have water for all the population in a city, in an urban area. So water is a very broad term. Particularly in my case, I have always been working with water in different river basins. And here, when I think in water in river basins, I think it's not just only water we have to deal with. We have to deal with economies, with social systems, with technologies, with climate change, with different sort of irrigations, with different kind of populations, with agriculture. So even if the word water is just water, and I think the water in a river, in my work, I have to associate it many, many different sectors: peoples, animals, biomes, ecosystems, technologies, etc., etc. So we are dealing, you have to think that there is a lot of complexity in that. There are many, many elements into that, and many, many processes all working together. And then it comes my favorite topic. When we work with this complex process, we always have uncertainties into that. And this would be what I was thinking, could be a cool topic to talk a Friday afternoon in Bilbao at 5:30, yes? So we are going to talk about uncertainties in water resource management. And what is uncertainty?
The sense that you don't know something, like you don't know what will happen.
Good. Any other definition? Any other thought? Oh, you have a thought. No? You look like you have a thought. Just let it out. No? And I thought that for the instead of going into the presentations, we can do a little game. And in here, imagine this is a river, and I have these beans, and each of these beans is water. So, to survive, each of us will need only one of these. And so I will pass this like this sequentially, and you all can grab, without looking how many there are or anything, you can grab how many you want. At least to survive, remember you need one. And here we are, this is our group, but also we have nature at the end. Nature is here. Did you see here this beautiful plant we have here? This is nature. Nature needs at least 4 beans. So each of us need one to survive. Nature needs 4. In addition to that, once you take this bean, these beans can be translated into money. So the more beans you have, the more money you have at the end, something that you also need to live. And so we are going to see what happens. This is a very simplified version, of course, of a real situation. So I will start passing to you. You can take as you want. Nobody will see how many you take or anything, and then you will pass to the next and to the next. You can have that.
Without them seeing.
Nothing, quiet, then you pass. So let's see what we have here. 2.
I didn't find one.
You didn't, who? You don't have any? How about you? You have 3. So,
I thought there was none.
none, well, but you are dead then.
Yeah, I'm
you
dead.
didn't take.
I'm dead.
And the plant, our nature is dead too.
Yes.
So this is something what a very regular situation. Imagine this is a river, and we all take water from the river. So at the end, we don't know how much water people is taking. At the end, you couldn't survive, and our nature couldn't survive. This is very dangerous because it's now without nature we cannot do anything. So now. Let's pass again. Let's put the whole thing. Put again the beans there. And now we are going to play again, but we are going to start from the ladies' side. Dead. Are you dead?
No.
No, you got. Okay, let's see how many. Okay, our plant is dead. At least, I mean, you all survived, but our plant is dead. And now, one last time, I want to do it, and we are going to do it. We start here. This is again same game, but with this thing. Same rules. So there are no more? Are you taken?
No,
Not anymore. So now, girls, you're all gone. Our plant is gone. So now let's go into talk about what is going on here. What is going on here? In this group, we have killed nature the 3 times we have played. That's not good. And also, we have killed some of the people every time we have played. So what's going on here in our shared resources? Now the bag and the beans, it's a common pool resource. It's a shared resource. It's something we all have to share. So it's called common pool resources. If we all have to share, it has to last. It has to last forever, because this is how we live. We live through taking the water. Imagine we are all farmers. Farmers would need water to take, to produce food, to sell their foods, to live. But in this case, we had at the beginning, we had enough beans for everybody. There was enough water for everybody. It was more than enough. But nevertheless, nature was dead, and she was dead too. So it means that we all take, or some of us took a lot more, so there was not enough for everybody. And this is a very common situation. And in common pool resources, particularly when you talk about rivers, you have, in many cases, you have upstreams and downstreams. So the upstreamers would take more water than the downstreams. So this is a very, very common case you will see in many river basins. So even though this game was kind of very simple, more than simple, it's an abstraction of a real situation that is happening nowadays. And this is one of the problems we are facing. And why uncertainties? You said that uncertainty is something that we don't know. And if there is something that we don't know, when did you feel, what was uncertain about this game?
The beans.
Say that again?
The beans.
The beans, how many beans there was? Yes, that could be how much water there was to share. We didn't know. And did you notice, for example, in the first round and the second round, there was enough beans. But in the third round, there was less beans. And this also, it has to do with climate change. With climate change, what we are going to have, there will be a lot of variability. And so, while some years there will be a lot of water, perhaps in other years there will not be enough. This depends in the region you live, etc., etc. It's not, we cannot generalize, but there will be this variability. And this variability that I don't know how much water I will have next year, it's something that when we work with water, we have to face. What other uncertainties did you face in this game?
How many beans your partner has?
Uh-huh. And why was that important?
Because we have to have the same.
Others? How about for you in this part? Well, at least it was funny. I mean. So this is also another uncertainty that is very important, is that we don't know what the others are doing. So then it's very difficult to predict how much water we are going to have, and when the water we are going to have, how we are going to share that. So these are some of the high complexities that water resource management have. So these are 2 points that are very important and very difficult to address. Because there is, for example, sometimes we know how much, here in Spain, farmers will have a water quota, so X amount of beans they were able to extract from the bag. But then it's a very common practice sometimes to take water illegally without saying anything. So to manage resources in that way, it's something very difficult because we don't know. But beyond the difficulties, this is something that's how things are. And this is part of the reality of dealing with common pool resources. And the whole situations will get a little bit more complicated with climate change because of this variability in climate that we don't know, we will not be able to predict. And so now I'm going to do a little bit, I'm going to go a little bit more theoretical because I'm a very theoretical and conceptual researcher. And so when we talk about uncertainties, how we define in general, it's as a deficit of knowledge, something that we don't know or we don't know yet because there is not enough research or because there is not enough data, or something that we completely ignore. There are things we don't know because we don't know they exist. So when we talk about uncertainties, we have this lack of data and this ignorance. I mean, things that we may even know that they are there. And also, when we are dealing with these complex systems, we have unpredictabilities due to the complexity of the system. Systems are so complex that even if we do research and we know a lot about them, the relationships are so much because we have to deal with so many variables at the same time that it's impossible to know. So, this definition of uncertainties is something in science. We scientists are it's something very regular for us. It's very common. We work with uncertainties. But it's very difficult when we have to deal with people and we have to make policies out of that. It's very difficult to translate these uncertainties. While for us scientists, we are very used to that, then it's very difficult to say, yes, my research says this, but I'm not sure about. We say, well, we don't say that. It's like, oh my gosh, I do research and then I cannot communicate it well. But with time, we are talking more about uncertainties, and uncertainties becoming a more common topic. But still in policy making, it's a very heavy topic because the policymakers have to make policies and make decisions, and then without knowing actually what will happen. So you have to establish a quota, a water quota, how many beans each farmer can take, without knowing how much water you will have. So even though it seems awkward, this is the situations we have nowadays. And what had happened in water so far until perhaps 1 decade ago, that our water resources were pretty much controlled. So we had a control management. This means that the idea was to secure water. So I knew I needed 1 bean of water per person. So I would make a dike or I would make a water transfer to be able to secure that water. But nowadays, and this tendency has started to change perhaps 20 years ago, when we started to realize this control doesn't work because you have to invest a lot in technologies, you have to invest a lot in making dikes, huge dikes or transfers, things that are very costly, that then it's difficult to go back. If they don't work, then it's very difficult to change because you have changed the course of a river. You can make a trasvase and then it's water transfer. And then it's so huge that then you can never go back to the original state. So when things do not work, these are very dangerous solutions, even though until today they are the preferred solutions. So now the whole situation with climate change has been exacerbated because we need more adaptive solutions. We need things that can be changed faster. So this controlling and building a lot of structures is a little bit out of fashion. It's not preferred anymore. So at the moment, what scientists and policymakers are talking a lot, it's about, for example, nature-based solutions, to work with nature and make solutions with nature in order to secure water, or in order to safeguard from water, like floods, for example. But there is another uncertainty. There is a situation that is very important. And the one you mentioned, it's like we don't know how much the other person is taking. And this is very important because here we are not only dealing with water resources. So what's fun about that? I mean, do you want to share the fun? So what happened here, it's something very important, is that when we talk about water, we also talk about people. We were all people taking beans from the bag. And we think very differently, and we interpret things very differently. I may have taken only one bean, thinking, okay, that is enough for me, while other person may have taken many beans, thinking, okay, I can get more money out of that. And this is also a very real situation that we need to take into account when we deal with common pool resources, that people, it's very different, have different beliefs, different values, different ways of seeing realities. And so we are dealing not only with a variable water system, but also with a lot of variability among us. And this is the fun of being human. I mean, we want that variability too. And this is a real case. I mean, this happens in the Guadiana, in a river basin. The Guadiana, it's a river that goes through central part of Spain, and then it goes to Portugal, and it's finished in the sea. And here what we have, it's like we have different actors. In the Guadiana, there are a lot of water abstractions, underground water abstractions. And there is a lot of illegal water abstractions. And so there is a lot of lack of water. And there has been also the non-good use of water have made a lot of wetlands to die. So nature has died also there because of how people have been abstracting and using water. And here you can see when you studying there, we would see there is a lot of variability in the social actors that are working in the area. And we have, on one hand, we have farmers. For farmers that farm there, they think, okay, there is not enough of water for me to be able to work and to produce what I have to produce to live. Instead, for NGOs or environmentalists, they were not seeing the problem of deficit of water as a problem that there is no sufficient water. They were seeing that as a problem that farmers could be consuming too much water. So these are two very different ways of framing a situation. And this is super important because how we frame the situation, it's how we find solutions. Also for the authorities were saying, the problem is not one of the water quota or insufficient water. The problem is that people are taking much more. They are taking illegally the water. So there is a total lack of control, and they are taking much, much, much more than what they need. So this situation creates a lot of controversies among people because they all think very differently. Still, they have to regulate water, and still water has to be managed. But how do you do to manage? While for one is complaining because they need more water. The other is complaining because you are abstracting more water, is saying to the farmers, you are abstracting so much water, you are the ones to blame. While the authority is being said, oh my gosh, there are so many illegals, we have to regulate the system. I mean, there are rules, but we need to regulate the system much better. So, this is a very, very common situation, and a very ambiguous situation, and something that has to do also with the uncertainties of not knowing what the others are thinking and how the others are acting. And this is a different sort of uncertainty. It's called ambiguity. And with ambiguity is a different sort of uncertainties. It doesn't refer to the variability we were talking before in climate. It talks about, instead of being a deficit of knowledge, it talks about a confusion that there is when there is a lot of people working, and it's not very clear what is the problem about or what is the solution. Is this a problem that it's not raining enough and we don't have enough water? It's a problem that someone is stealing water? Or it's a problem that they are over-consuming? So ambiguities are important because in addition to the things we don't know from the data, from the science, about how much water, the amount of waters we're going to have, we have the people, and the people working together, and the confusions that emerges. So, here what is important is that there is no technical solutions that could be appropriate, because we are dealing with peoples and we are dealing with differences. So the solutions will depend on how we manage to handle these differences among people. For example, in this group, what we could have done is, after the first round, that nature was dead and she was dead, we should have get together and said, okay, listen everybody, here we have a problem. How we do to manage that? We let nature to die. We let our colleague to die. And so this aspect of water management is super, super important. And this is something, this is what I wanted to talk to you today. So when I speak about uncertainties in my work, I speak about deficits of knowledge that could go, well, I know everything about everything, I have total control because I know everything. Or to the other extreme, I ignore many things. But reality goes a little bit in the middle. We always know something. We don't know certain things, but we know many things too. And then we have, on the other axis, ambiguities that goes to having a consensus. We all think in the same way. We all agree to have a lot of confusions about things. So this is how we make decisions. We make decisions between ambiguities and between deficits of knowledge. So if I ask now again what is uncertainties, now we know that is not knowing enough, but also knowing differently. And here this is important to say is that to make decisions collectively, we not only need to pay attention to what we know and what we don't know, but also to pay attention to ourselves, to our communities, and to our differences. I wanted to tell you a little bit of what I have been doing lately, but I want to stop here and ask, is everything clear? Do you have any question? No? Okay. So, and this is a project I have been working. I just finished this project at the end of February. And this was in the river basin of the Mijares River. The Mijares is in the region close to Valencia. It goes from the mountains It goes 150 kilometers south to the Mediterranean. And this is where they just have the danas or all these very severe problems. And so we were studying here what is happening in this river basin is that people have worked a lot. This is an agriculture area here in the coast. We have a lot of citrus and a lot of agricultura de secano, more in the up in the mountains. And then we have the mountainous regions here. So the area goes from 2,000 meters above down to the Mediterranean Sea. And what is happening is that this has been an agricultural area for many, many centuries, but lately there has been a lot of misuses of the area. And so the area has been little by little being desertified. So it's losing the summer rains. And what is happening is that you have the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and normally what would happen is that the clouds from the Mediterranean will go through the whole valley and crush the mountains, and there they will precipitate, so you will have rain that will go then down through the valley. And that cycle, that is called the water cycle, has been cut due to misusing in the territory. And what is happening is that they do not have summer rain. But for agriculture, this is very bad, because if you don't have summer rains, then you cannot have productions, agricultural productions. So there is a lot of lack of water. And this is a situation that is very common in many Mediterranean basins. And now in this region close to Valencia, you have here that on top of that, you have that also due to climate change and the higher temperatures of the Mediterranean, etc., you have the effects of the danas, and the danas will be very, very strong. So for people in these regions, they will have to get used to live between the dry summers and also strong danas and floods. So this is also a situation that unfortunately it's common in part due to the historical uses of the land and in part due to climate change. And land and climate change are very much connected one with the other. So this is a little bit what I have explained about the precipitations, summer precipitations. And so in that, on the right, we have the regular rain cycle. We have from the Mediterranean, then the water will crash in the mountains and will rain. But here, sorry, in the left, and here in the right, we have what is happening right now. The clouds do not precipitate. And then when we studied uncertainties, we are studying the uncertainties in that region. And this is kind of the graph. These are some of the uncertainties we have. It's huge. So these are all the things we don't know when we deal with water in there. So it's so complex. Then you go, wow, but now we cannot do anything. What we can do? We don't know nothing. I mean, when I look at that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so complex. What can a policymaker do if they have as many uncertainties as that? Perhaps it's very daunting. And all these uncertainties are pretty much connected. So you have uncertainties regarding to water, you have uncertainties regarding to forest, connecting water with forest, water with people, climate, forest, people, climate, forest, forest, people, climate, forest, all the combinations you want, everything, all the uncertainties are interconnected here. And then also, when we study uncertainties in that area, we cannot forget that there is people. And here it's where things becomes actually very interesting, because when we talk with different actors there, with different social agents there, like we talk with many farmers, different sort of farmers, with inhabitants, with people from the industry. And when we ask, they all needed water. But when we ask about water and what they consider more important, they were preoccupied for water, of course, but they were very preoccupied for other things than water. For example, some of them were parents and they were preoccupied because the area is getting desertified, and their kids, when they grow up, they will not be able to work and live there. Or they were very preoccupied because the extensive forests that are not being managed are producing a lot of fires. Fire is a problem. There are a lot of fires that are coming out because there is no people there and nobody's managing the forest. So what I wanted to bring here is that none of the problems of waters or the uncertainties that we have regarding to water issues are separate from the uncertainties from people. So when we deal with this, when we think in solutions or way to address these problems, we cannot forget that people, yes, of course it's very interesting on water, but perhaps for them it's more important to have their kids living there, or they have a way of living that they are not consumed by a fire because they have a lot of unmanaged forest, or that the dikes that are there are managed so then when they have the floods, they don't have disasters like what happened a few months ago. And so what we work on, here we have been developing sort of games and simulations. This is a behavioral simulations in which this is kind of a role play. And so we get together with different actors and we play a real situations in which there are uncertainties regarding of this deficit of knowledge, but also there are different ways of each actor, each person brings a different way of seeing realities. So we simulate how it could be different alternatives of solutions in the area, simulating with people. So these simulations take 2 or 3 hours. I would have done that today with you, but we didn't have enough time. Also, we are developing some games in order with the same purpose of trying to use games or these methodologies in order to make people think or their interconnections on how it is to do things in a collective way and the difficulties that entails to include everybody into that. So we have learned today, I hope, some new vocabulary that has to do with common pool resources, with being together, with ambiguities, with uncertainties, with learning, with collective actions. That I hope you have learned a little bit about that. Perhaps it's a new vocabulary. I think it's given climate change. I think this is the vocabulary we have to be, it has to become very common. We have to start feeling it, using that on an everyday basis. And here, this is the last slide I have. It's the uncertainties, including ambiguities, reminds us that to find strategies of adaptations that are effective for climate change, together with, in addition to have the best knowledge, scientific knowledge, we need the capacity of working through our differences, knowing that also we have a lot of things in common. And this is fundamental to remember. Yes, we have more things in common than we have different. And this is the end.
Thank you very much.
Right on time, it's 6:30, but we have a minute for a few questions or things I would like to hear.
Me ha gustado mucho lo que has dicho porque son cosas que quizá las conocemos, pero no nos damos cuenta de ello, ¿no? Lo que has dicho de la incertidumbre y de la ambigüedad y cómo cada uno de nosotros ve las cosas de diferente forma y lo importante que es sí, compartir, ¿no? esa visión de cada uno para poder enfrentarse a los problemas. Pero es curioso, ¿quién iba a pensar que para solucionar un problema climático o algo físico, que se pudieran utilizar los juegos, ¿no?
Ah.
Háblanos de eso. ¿Cómo es posible que se utilicen, los científicos utilicéis los juegos con, bueno, con la gente como nosotros, ¿no? Para que nos demos cuenta de la realidad.
Mira, porque es muy difícil trabajar a la intersección de lo que es ciencia. Por ejemplo, si yo pienso en un río, en la hidrología, en todo lo que se sabe de los suelos, etc., hay mucho conocimiento científico que, además de ser complejo, es difícil de acceder. Pero nosotros, esos sistemas, un sistema de un río, no está alejado, no está separado de la gente. Entonces, tenemos que buscar la conexión con las personas. ¿Y cómo se hace esa conexión? No es algo que nosotros veamos de afuera. Esa es una conexión vivida y que tenemos que sentir. La razón por la cual yo en mi trabajo de científica trabajo mucho con este tipo de herramientas es porque nos permiten vivir una situación en carne propia. Nosotros, por ejemplo, ustedes cuando iban sacando las beans de este wallet, cuando iban así sacando las beans, ustedes sentían, nada, ay, bueno, me quedaré sin vino, no, o algo han sentido. No quieren hablar, pero yo sé que algo han sentido. ¿No es cierto? Bien. Y entonces eso es importante, porque eso lo traes al cuerpo y ese conocimiento pasa a través del cuerpo. Y entonces también jugás con las emociones. En este caso, bueno, era algo muy simple que hicimos acá como a modo de ilustración, pero en estos juegos que hacemos de 2 o 3 horas, la gente se empieza a meter en eso. Y por ejemplo, al finales de febrero jugamos uno con agricultores de verdad y gente de verdad, gente que había pasado la situación de la dana, y cuando estás ahí, claro, el agricultor siente, no, esto está pasando, pero me están dejando morir a mí. En este caso nosotros, ay, morimos así, jajajaja, ja, 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 se murió la planta que está acá, esta planta tan bonita. Pero en la realidad son personas de verdad, es naturaleza de verdad. Entonces, nada, sí es importante buscar esa relación entre lo que es la ciencia y la ciencia objetiva, esa ciencia que vemos que está como fuera nuestro, atraerlo al cuerpo. Y cuando trabajamos con personas es fundamental hacer eso. Entonces, de ahí que este tipo de juegos nos permitan trabajar con procesos y también con interacciones entre personas. Las interacciones son súper importantes, porque el hecho de que llegues a vos y no tengas ningún bin para sacar es importante, porque quiere decir que el grupo no está pensando. Entonces, ese tipo de cosas salen. A ver, contame, ¿cómo fue para vos?
No, bien, una presentación, pero siempre usas los mismos juegos. O sea, el juego que haces de rol, que has dicho, con los actores o con los agricultores, ¿siempre usas el mismo juego o vais variando?
No, están hechos, vas variando, están hechos especialmente para esa área y para una situación en particular. Entonces el juego, si bien es una abstracción, porque es como un modelo, tiene pocos detalles, pero esos detalles son muy importantes. Entonces para llegar a eso también hay mucha investigación atrás del área, de qué es lo importante. Después termina siendo algo simple, pero tiene mucho trabajo atrás para llegar a identificar qué es lo importante. Entonces cada región tiene una problemática en particular que va a ser distinta de otra.
Y con el juego también aprendéis lo que sabe cada persona.
Exacto. Exactamente. Y entonces salen cosas y los sentimientos. Por ejemplo, en este juego que hicimos en Valencia, toda la gente estaba triste y mal y decepcionada, que era interesante, porque era todo, nadie dijo nada, nadie estaba bien. era un grupo, nada, entonces eso también es muy importante cuando tenemos que tomar ciertas decisiones. Nuestro estado, los sentimientos, cómo estamos y demás. Así que las decisiones se pueden tomar a través de la razón, pero hay mucho a través del sentimiento que pasa. Entonces hablamos de sentipensares y eso lo tenemos que tomar en cuenta.
Y por ejemplo, tras la Dana y lo que has explicado, lo que habéis investigado, ¿tú crees que después de una situación así la gente toma conciencia y se puede revertir el daño que se ha hecho? El daño, quiero decir, la desertización, no sé hasta qué punto.
Mira, bueno, este proyecto yo acá no lo expliqué, es todo de testear la posibilidad de hacer intervenciones para revertir la desertificación, que es a través de la revegetación. Sí, es todo, no expliqué nada de eso, pero sí. Por supuesto que sí, para que tuvieran impactos estos juegos a un nivel de comunidad, de región, etcétera, se tendrían que hacer en forma masiva y demás, porque jugamos con un grupo reducido de personas. Pero al menos sirven, cuando se juegan de a poco, sirven para saber cómo es la situación, para saber qué es lo que la gente piensa, para empezar a testear diferentes cosas. Es otra forma también de licitar información.
Bueno, ¿y tú crees que se puede revertir en las situaciones así, ¿no? De falta de agua o
Bueno,
problemas
a ver,
climáticos a pequeña escala al menos?
a pequeña escala creo que todos podemos hacer muchísimas cosas y que ya debemos estar haciendo muchas cosas. Entonces creo que sí, y en parte de eso realmente creo, y es lo que les dije un poco hoy acá, que tenemos que trabajar muchísimo en comunidades, en grupos, en pensar en las interacciones, en pensar en el otro, en ver cómo trabajamos juntos, en desarrollar ese músculo de la togetherness. Entonces, si no tenemos agua, pero nos tenemos todos, entonces se pueden hacer cosas. Entonces creo que es fundamental. En realidad esta charla las preparé porque realmente creo que es una manera que tenemos es algo que podemos hacer y lo podemos hacer todos. Eso lo podemos hacer, no necesitamos nada. Bueno, un gusto haber venido y compartido este momento con ustedes.
Gracias.
Espero.
A ti. Un aplauso.
Aplausos a todos.